Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. We have talked in this show before about the importance of school climate and the consequences on student achievement. We have talked about the importance of creating a culture and a learning environment that is appropriate for students to learn and for parents to support the students' learning process and for the educational community to work together. But what does it mean to create happiness in schools? What does that mean in practical terms? Well, today we have the honor to have with us Jacqui Antonetti, who is an expert on this field, and she's going to explain us in simple terms how do we create happiness in schools. Jacqui, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. But why don't we start by letting you introduce yourself to the audience and kind of letting them know how do you get to where you are in your career?
Okay. Well, first of all, I must say I'm a global citizen. And that gives me like a wide view, an open view of what's going on in the world, let's say like that. Professionally speaking, I have college degree in marketing. I'm also a journalist. I did a postgraduate degree in Canada in international business. And 4 years ago, I decided that I wanted to do something more meaningful. And that's when when I changed path towards life coaching, and specifically focused on emotions management and understanding and balancing. I'm also an author, an entrepreneur. I am a lifelong learner, passionate about education, and I am a mom. I am a mom to twin daughters. They're 8.5 years old. And they have been my greatest teachers in this path, and also my greatest motivation to do what I do now.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. But as you mentioned, you change your career path towards life coaching, and like I said at the beginning of the interview, one of the biggest things that we see in schools nowadays, we're still seeing in schools, a lot of bullying, a lot of stress among students and administrators and teachers and educational community towards making the students perform. A lot of principals' jobs, a lot of teachers' jobs depend on students, performing academically in their standardized testing or their classrooms or their grades. And we have seen over and over again that research shows that the level of happiness or how happy you are in your environment is gonna influence how you perform. And so I know we're gonna get into that in a little bit. I know you have been starting to work with schools, and I wanted to ask you, specifically in education, how do you tell us a little bit, how do you create or how do you cultivate happiness in schools? Because now with all the variables that we have nowadays, as educators, as administrators, as parents, how do you cultivate happiness in a school?
Yeah. Well, that's actually a great question. The first thing I would like to say here is that happiness is a state of mind. It's not, and that state of mind has to do more with peace of mind than with excitement. Okay, so I think we first need to clarify what happiness means. Okay,
correct.
And that peace of mind, if you think about it, it's achieved in a very great proportion by feeling fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how do you feel fulfilled, or what is fulfillment? It's basically the alignment, the coherence between who we are, our true self, and what we do. So what we see out there a lot is we forget who we are and we do what is expected from us to do. And not necessarily those expectations from the outer world have anything to do with who we truly are, what really makes us happy, what helps us see the purpose that we have in the world. Okay, so when we see ourselves as people who add value to the world, even though it sounds very romantic, okay, but it's true, it's achievable, and it's something that we can all do and we should all pursue, okay? So when we see ourselves as these beings who have our own uniqueness, and that uniqueness is necessary in the world, we start to look at ourselves and the outer world completely differently.
Now, Jacqui, but what about, sorry to interrupt, but what can you tell to those viewers? We may have principals, we may have superintendents who are looking at us right now, and they may be thinking that this concept of happiness is too hippie, too romantic. Now, I know, and you know, that that is not true, because all research shows that what you're saying, the level of content, the level of happiness, the level of fulfillment that you may have as an individual is going to end up having a tremendous impact on the way that your faculty, your students, your parents, and everybody's going to respond. But what can you tell to those accepted minds, or those people who are really apprehensive about the concept of, oh, you know, it sounds too cheesy, it sounds too idealistic, the concept of creating happiness in school? What can you tell to those people who are not that convinced about the concept?
Okay, I can say two things to them. First of all, there are practical tools that take us to that state. Okay, and so it's possible. I'm not talking from theory, I'm not talking from philosophy, I'm talking from experience. Everything I teach to parents, educators, and I'm bringing into schools now, like as a community, I've practiced myself at home with my daughters. Okay, so I know it works, I know it's possible. And I've done it with myself as an individual. Okay, so that's one thing. There are practical tools that can take us there. Mm-hmm. Second, then more in the human side, I will invite them, okay, to look into their own life and focus or identify an area in their lives that they really enjoy what they do and that they feel like rewarded and fulfilled, and that will give them the answer by themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that makes a lot of sense. Now, you and I know that the schools are still experiencing a lot of behavioral issues, especially when looking at economically disadvantaged students or students who live in poverty, or have a risk because they don't have, they're raised by single parents, or they're in whatever difficult situation. And so we see those struggles going back to the schools by affecting behavior. And one of the still big problems that we have across schools in the nation is bullying.
Yeah.
And so what can you tell us about, first, tell us a little bit about your program that you created, a little bit about the steps that you start giving the schools to follow and to reach that level of happiness, and at the end ended up affecting positively school climate, and how those steps will help teachers and will help administrators to diminish behavioral issues and diminish bullying in schools.
Okay, great. Well, the program is called the Sophia Project, and the name is very personal. It's being named after a baby we lost, and her name was Sophia. And I wanted to somehow honor, okay, the teachings that she brought into our lives. So I thought, what a better way than including her in improving education. Okay, so that's what the name comes from.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So it's very dear to our heart, and there are values. Okay, the name itself represent values that are included in this program. Okay, so like S stands for sensibility to approach all the human, matters and concerns and so on. Okay, so the program is thought out to be a way, a methodology, okay, that holds a space or creates the environment for teachers and parents and all of us who are somehow involved in educating our children and our youth to allow the true self of these students to flourish and be. So we can create the ideal conditions for that alignment that I was talking before, okay? For that coherence between who we are and what we do, okay? So it is, there was actually an experience in San Diego, California.
Yeah, I want you to talk to us about that because I know the program was implemented in San Diego. So you said that the Sophia name, every letter of the name has a specific component in the program. So S is sensibility, and O is.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you exactly all the values.
Yeah. So you have. Talk to us a little bit about the different steps for a minute, and then tell us how was the experience in San Diego. How long did it take you guys to implement the program, and talk to us about the results that you guys had in that school.
Yes, the program is basically a number of live tools. Okay, it's not only it's not like an academic thing. Okay, it's live tools that complement the academic teaching.
Perfect.
Okay?
So holistic approach.
It's a holistic approach, and when I say holistic, I'm very careful about that word because some people, put a little of a barrier there because they think of the holistic in the spiritual sense. And we don't mean it in that way. We mean it in the sense of integration of all the different actors that take part in the education. It's not only the teachers, but it's also the administrative staff at schools. It's parents, it's caregivers. It's the community in general, even companies, businesses that take part, do life in that community where the schools are, because we're all responsible for our children and our youth. It's not something that is just for teachers or only for parents.
Exactly.
So it's this number of tools, as I said before, life tools. Yes, there is a little bit of mindfulness in there. And when I say mindfulness, it's not just meditation. That's one tool within mindfulness. It's the art and science of being present. And recognizing who we are.
And so so you guys, when you guys went to this school, first of all, is this school in San Diego? As I understand, they had a lot of behavioral issues, right?
Yes.
And it was it a high economic disadvantaged school, or was a middle class, predominantly middle class?
Yeah, no, it was actually in La Jolla,
Okay.
which is a very wealthy area
Okay.
in San Diego,
Okay.
Southern California. But this was first graders.
Okay.
First graders level. There were, the classroom, I think it was about 26 kids, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And 7 of them were highly violent.
Okay.
And they had, very strong behavioral issues.
Okay. Okay.
To the point that this class was labeled by the principals and all the principal and all the authorities in the school as the worst class in the entire school. Okay. We're talking from pre-K to 5th grade.
Okay.
So it's a lot to say.
Yeah.
And it's a big label to carry on our shoulders, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So this was an intervention of emergency. It was an emergency intervention. A parent reached out to me and said, explain what's going on, and they really needed help.
Yeah.
Her daughter was one of the victims. Okay, she was being bullied and all that. No?
Okay.
So we stepped in. It was very in a very short amount of time, because we're talking about April.
Okay.
And school ended mid-June.
Okay.
So in that very short period of time, there was an improvement in the environment, in the behavior, in the levels of empathy that even the teacher could not believe.
Wow.
And it was just for this case, we made available only 5 tools, and they didn't even use all of them.
Okay.
But the ones they used, they did it, on very consistently.
Okay.
The beauty of the program is that we teach the tools. We explain what the purpose of each tool is.
Okay.
And we also explain what are the elements within each tool that fulfill that purpose.
Exactly.
Okay? But
that training, Jacqui, sorry, is not only for teachers, but you also train parents, and you also train administrators and students, right?
Yes.
So yes. It's not really focused on only one group, but it's focused on the entire educational community, right?
Yes, because there are little nuances depending on who the person is. Because, for example, for teachers who are there on daily basis,
okay,
well, the way they implement the tools is different, okay, from the way that school staff
exactly.
or a parent will do at home.
Exactly.
So they vary depending on the environment and the setting and the person who's going to implement the tool. Okay, and also understanding what the tool is for and what are the elements within the tool that are important to put into practice or to include gives the person the freedom and the flexibility, okay, to implement it in the way that best fit their climate, their needs, the personality of the group. Because yes, each student has a personality, but also as a group, they end up developing a personality, exactly. Like a collective personality, right? Yeah. So the teacher is the best person to assess, yeah, what their needs are. So that's why we teach it in a way that gives them the flexibility,
Yeah,
to apply it in a way that really works for them.
yeah, because it's not. So basically, what you're saying, it's not really prescriptive. You have tools, you have options according to your needs and according to the realities of your educational community. Now, Jackie, what about the results? At the end of the implementation of the project and the training for parents and administrators, what do you see at the end of the program?
Well, as I mentioned before, the level of empathy increased, in a very visible way
Okay.
among the group. And of course, being more empathetic, the natural result was that the violence and the bullying diminished considerably.
That's awesome, because that's something that you see in a lot. Now, one thing that I'm seeing here in this case is that we start earlier in the student's life, which is essential. We're talking about basically first grade could be considered also early childhood. So we're still talking about pre-K, kinder, first grade. And as we know, all the learning theories tell us that the later you learn, the harder it is. What are your experience having to approach cultivating happiness in schools with adults? Because once we're wired, it's really hard to rewire ourselves. And I think one of the big advantages is implementing these in early ages is that students are gonna be able to develop that sense of happiness and that sense of fulfillment at the early stages. But what about when you have to deal with parents or you have to deal with teachers who are really skeptical about creating happiness or are already wired in a certain way? What is your experience and what are your recommendations to elevate conscience with adults?
Well, the first thing that I recommend is to talk to the intellectual mind. Because as we grow,
what do you mean by that?
Okay, as we grow older, we give more importance to the intellectual mind than to the conscious mind, subconscious, and all that. Okay. The truth is, and when I say that, what I mean is show them statistics, use terminology that is supported by science, like things that give them proof of what we're saying.
Okay.
Why is that? Because if you do that and they satisfy the intellectual mind to a point that at least they become curious.
Exactly.
To learn a little bit more, there is less resistance.
Okay.
So everything we do is really supported by science.
Perfect.
Neuroscience, quantum physics, and everything.
You show them with numbers, with results, with research. This particular methodology works, and it works because of this, that, and that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So when you do that, at least they calm down a little bit. Their reptilian brain, which is the survival brain, is the brain.
I've never heard that one before. The reptilian brain.
Yes. We have three brains.
Okay.
We have three brains. The reptilian,
the
limbic, which is in charge of emotions, and the neocortex, which is the reptilian brain is the oldest one in development. In humanity. So it has millions of years in development. And it's the one that is in charge of keeping us safe. It's the survival brain. Because it's been developed for so long now, is the one that reacts the first. Automatically.
Okay.
When it perceives some kind of danger, is the one that activates and leads us to either run, freeze, or fight.
Okay.
Okay? So, for the most part, when we are in front of something that is new to us, the reptilian brain reacts.
Okay.
Okay? Because it's perceived as a threat.
Okay.
Or a potential threat.
Okay.
Along with the reptilian brain, the limbic brain or the limbic system activates immediately as well, really quickly.
Okay.
And let's say, the way I like to explain it, and again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, so I'm sure there are people out there that know this better, that could explain it in a better way. Okay? So if there is any misunderstanding, please forgive me.
Okay.
So the way I like to talk about the emotional brain is the one that has the same functionality or the same purpose as the reptilian, but in the emotions. Okay, on the emotion side.
Exactly.
So it creates, is the one that reacts emotionally, okay, and it starts to create all this chemistry in our brain that goes along, through all our body.
Okay.
The limbic system, because it perceives anything new as a threat or a potential threat, likes what is familiar.
Okay.
Okay? The purpose of both brains are to protect us.
Okay.
But the problem is that they cannot discern. They don't know. So the emotional brain likes or feels comfortable about what is familiar, but is not capable to understand if that whatever is familiar to us is really what we need, is really what adds value to us.
Okay.
Okay? So here comes the neocortex. Is all this part is the largest brain, okay, but it's the newest. It's the baby one, okay, or a teenager, let's say.
Okay.
So it takes long to develop, okay? It starts developing all throughout childhood and early youth.
Okay.
And it's the creative brain, it's the rational brain, it's the brain that helps us discern if what we're doing is really in our best interest or not.
Okay.
So when we are working with kids, even as parents, we want to make sure that we help the kids to develop their neocortex in a healthy way.
Okay.
Okay? Because otherwise, they're always going to be reacting. It's always the reptilian and the limbic brain who are going to be working all the time.
Okay.
And the body, the human body, is not conditioned to live under stress for long periods of time.
Okay.
Okay. It's great for reactions, for keeping us alive.
Yeah.
But when we keep them in that sustained state of stress,
yeah.
emotional and physical, it just breaks down.
Exactly.
Okay. So when we explain, there is resistance, in parents and in some educators, and but that resistance comes from not knowing.
Yes.
So when you educate them and you talk about the benefits and you talk how their lives are going to be easier and better and more fulfillment, because it's not going to be this fight with their kids.
Yeah.
But they're going to understand all of them that they're a team.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything is going to change. It's going to improve not only for the child, but it's also going to improve for them.
So let me ask you this, Jacqui. What about those secondary teachers and administrators and parents who are looking at us right now, who are parents? I include myself in that club of teenagers, and they struggle to communicate with their teenager students or children. Uh, what is your recommendation, or what is your take on implementing cultivating happiness with teenagers, with high school students, what or middle school students? What are your thoughts about that specific population?
Okay. First of all, we need to stop labeling them. Okay. The more labels we put on them, the more they believe those roles, and that reinforce their behaviors.
Okay.
Okay. And this is based on quantum physics.
Okay.
Whether we see it or not, we have a field around us. Okay. It's a magnetic field.
Okay.
We don't need to talk to communicate. I don't need to tell you what I think of you for you to feel what I think of you.
Correct.
Okay? And because it's a field, it connects us all. So if you're talking, let's say you're talking with your wife in Spain because you went for a second honeymoon to Spain, and you're talking about your kid, and you're saying he's this and that and whatever and so and so and so. Okay. His field is gonna get that message. Okay. And unconsciously, he's going to behave in a way that matches your belief about him.
Okay.
And there was no way he could listen to you saying those things because he was in Texas.
Yeah.
And you were in Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know this is a concept that is a little challenging to understand.
No, but it makes sense. So basically what you're saying is, even if you think about it, basically you put it in your brain or your verbal. So is it verbalizing it, or is also thinking about it?
Also thinking, because our thoughts have energy.
Okay.
And that energy we project. And I give you a very specific.
But what recommendations do you give to parents and to educators? Because what you're saying is really good and really profound. But what recommendation do you give, or what tools do you give parents or educators or administrators when they're having those thoughts in their brain about specific teenagers or a specific student who are misbehaving, or he come Danny again, or even if Danny's not doing anything, you're already in your brain are putting. What tools do you give those? Would you recommend those adults to implement to deal with those thoughts? Because sometimes those thoughts go there automatically. You're not even, and so how to combat that thinking process?
Okay, here is something that, again, it may sound a little bit challenging to understand, but I can tell you from experience and again from scientific studies. Everything our kids do and everything we do is based on a good intention. Okay. And let me explain this a little bit better. Okay? Because you may say, how can a killer have a good intention for, their actions? Okay, I'm just taking it to the extreme so people can understand.
Yeah.
The good intention is for the person. Okay, and it can be motivated for a survival need.
Okay.
Okay, it can come from the reptilian brain.
Okay.
But for that person, what he or she is doing is what he or she needs to do in order to keep themselves alive or good or whatever. That's when it comes from a survival origin or need.
Okay.
So if we understand that whatever thing our child is doing is coming from a place of a good intention,
okay,
for him or her, we will be less judgmental.
okay,
We will be able to not take it personal.
okay,
We will be able to go beyond our ego
okay,
and really connect heart to heart.
okay,
Okay? Be compassionate, and be compassionate to yourself. So don't feel guilty because you're thinking those thoughts about your kid, because you're still human.
yes, yes.
Okay? So be compassionate to yourself and to your children. And when I say compassionate, I'm not saying pity. Okay. I'm not saying connect with the emotional state of that person,
Okay.
because you won't be able to help it.
Okay.
Okay? If you connect at the same emotional state, you won't be able to see the situation from a more elevated point.
Exactly.
So you're going to add to the chaos instead of bringing a solution.
Exactly.
Okay? So do not connect with the emotional state, but do understand with open heart the humanity that there is in both of you.
Okay.
When we recognize that humanity, then we stop seeing the other as an enemy, or we stop thinking that we have to correct them, or we have to fix them, and we're able to see how they are being our teachers.
Well, and that's a great tool, and I think thinking in practical terms of a school where you have an assistant principal who has to be the disciplinarian in the school because you have certain rules in a public school. This whole approach implies a shift in the mentality and in the entire school culture. But it's definitely something that if it is discussed with teenagers and millennials in general, I think it can resonate, and it can indirectly start creating relationships between the disciplinarian, the administrators, and the teachers and the students, instead of having that message can start making them work as a team instead of separating in two different entities. Am I right in that thinking?
Absolutely right, because actually millennials and the younger generations, they get it easier and faster than we do.
Okay.
On that than older generations do, because they come with a level of awareness that we didn't have at their age.
Okay.
Okay? It's part of the evolution of the human race. Okay? Their level of consciousness is higher than the level of consciousness we had at their age. Okay? So what's happened with the millennials? We collectively have put labels on them based on what we think is right.
Correct.
Okay? So everything is being ego-based. And it's okay. It's part of being human.
Yes, yes. Now,
but, yeah.
Go ahead.
But when we start to, again, look at them as teachers, and we start to listen to them, then they will be more open to listen to us.
Okay.
okay? And they will understand. One of the things that millennials have is that they care more about purpose than they care about money and all these materialistic things,
Yeah.
okay? And that is great. If you think about it, that is great.
Yeah.
But what happened is that they don't necessarily know what their purpose, or they start second guessing what their place in the world is, because we all have decided that they're lazy, that they don't know how to connect with others, that all they care about is technology and devices and all that.
Yes. Yes. And what you said before, if you put those thoughts in your brain, you ended up, even if you don't want it to, you ended up sending that message to the kids.
To the field. And it reinforces their behavior.
That makes perfect sense.
Now that you brought this back about the thought,
yeah.
And I said, don't feel guilty, but there is also a practical thing to do.
Okay.
Once you get this thought, okay, just observe it, okay, and change it.
Okay.
And change it how? Now you're gonna ask yourself, what is this behavior that I'm perceiving, like this, whatever thing that I'm judging, that I'm giving it this name, okay? Yeah. What is telling me?
Okay.
Okay. Or what is the positive intention? What could potentially be the positive intention behind that behavior?
Okay.
So that's training our brain, okay, to change, to do that shift.
Yeah, and I'm sure that part of the training and cultivating happiness in the school, you help parents and you help teachers and administrators to train themselves through that process, right?
Yes.
That's fantastic. Now, Jacqui, to kind of finishing up, I know you're planning to start introducing these programs across the U.S. I'm honored to work with you. I admire you a lot. I think you're a tremendous entity in the world. What recommendations do you have for teachers and school administrators who may be looking at us right now, who are currently struggling with behavioral issues or emotional issues in their schools, especially economically disadvantaged students? I'm gonna put your information at the end of the interview, but I want you to kind of give them some tips and based on your approach of cultivating happiness in school, for them, for teachers, administrators, or any person who may be looking at us right now, who may be struggling in their classroom with emotional or behavioral or bullying issues in their schools.
Yes. Well, first of all, as I said earlier, be compassionate to yourself and to the students, okay? And understanding compassion, as I just explained it a little bit earlier, okay? Then don't take personal the students' behaviors.
Okay.
Okay? Remember that there's always a good intention behind their behavior. So try to understand what's going on behind that.
Okay.
Okay? It's usually a cry for help.
Okay.
Okay? But most of the time, they don't even know what kind of help they need.
Yes.
Okay? So don't take it personal. And the reason why I mentioned these two things is because when you are more compassionate and when you disconnect, from the situation in the sense that you don't take it personal, it's not against you, okay? You get to be less emotional about it. And when our emotions are more balanced, we are able to see beyond what is obvious, okay? And we make better assessments, we can make better decisions, okay? So we need to, bring down the emotionality that is around the situation. And then I have to say this, embracing mindfulness and non-conventional tools, okay, that speak more to the inner self than to the intellectual mind, okay? If they do those three things, they will set themselves to a good start in this process, because again, there will be less emotional reactions, and there will be a more loving environment that will help them see with more clarity what are the tools, the practical tools and actions that are convenient and that are appropriate for the situation. Okay, so I guess
That is
one of
fantastic.
the things I would like to say is listen to your intuition. Okay,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong about listening to that inner voice. You already have the academics, you have the education, you have the experience. If you connect your brain to your heart, you will know what to do.
Oh, I love what you're saying because it really talks about the connecting with the emotions and connecting uh basically establishing relationship with students, which is so necessary in schools. Jacqui, I want to thank you one more time for being with us today, and for enlightening us about this topic. Again, I'm going to put your information at the end of the interview. Folks out there, remember that we have this interview and many others in Antonio Corrales YouTube channel. Let's talk about education with Antonio Corrales YouTube channel and Sterling Evaluation and Assessment.com. Please help somebody today and see you next time.
I want to say something else, if you
Absolutely,
allow.
absolutely. Go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry. I would like to close with this tweet from Dalai Lama that I saw this morning, which is
Okay,
not a coincidence. And it
okay.
says, modern education is premised strongly on materialistic values. It is vital that when educating our children's brains, that we do not neglect to educate their hearts. A key element of which has to be the nurturing of our compassionate nature. So I think this is the way I can summarize what we talked today.
That is fantastic, Jacqui. With that, guys, nothing else to say. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jacqui. And
Thank you.
see you guys next time. All right. Take care.